Okay, boys and girls, we are on our second science show with Emma and Mrs. Spink. And today we're going to talk about density. And we're going to do something that kind of looks like a magic trick. I have some water and I put some orange food coloring in it. And I did that so that it didn't get confused with some other things that we're going to use. I also have some blue dish soap. I have some corn syrup. This is just essentially a bunch of sugar made into a liquid, and it makes everything yummy. I have some honey, and I have some cooking oil. This would be like what your French fries are cooked in or your chicken nuggets are cooked in, and it makes everything very crispy and yummy. So we've talked about atoms a lot recently, and we've talked about molecules, and you just saw Emma and I demonstrate the way molecules behave in solids, liquids, and gases, and we did that in our classroom sort of with some COVID restrictions. But we're going to go back and talk about atoms again and how tightly and how loosely they're packed in things. So when something is dense, it's just much heavier than something that's not dense. So if you ever have like a piece of cake or a cookie or a muffin and it's very, very heavy, then you might hear somebody say, this is a very dense cupcake or cookie or muffin. Or if it's very light, it's less dense. So when things have more density, their atoms are going to be really tightly packed, okay? So you're going to see some of these liquids are going to have they're all going to have different densities, and the densities are going to be you'll be able to see that based on how their atoms are packed. So Emma's going to do some pouring, and you're going to hopefully see a little bit of magic going on here. I'm going to tell her when to stop, and we're going to start with some cooking oil. Do you need an apron, Emma?
No.
Okay, so Emma's going to pour some cooking oil into the cup, and wait, time out. We're going to actually be pouring all of these liquids into the cup, and we're going to watch and see what magic happens, and then we'll talk a little bit about how that's related to density. So go ahead and pour the cooking oil, Emma. And keep going. Okay, stop. All right, so there's the cooking oil. And then I want you to pour the water. No, I want you to pour pour the corn syrup. Okay, that's what the sugary yumminess is. Corn syrup. She's gonna pour that on top. It's a little trickier to see, but it's a little bit lighter color than the cooking oil. So you might not be able to see it right away, but I promise you'll be able to see it in a few minutes. Okay, go ahead and stop. And then I'm going to have you pour the honey. My dog is currently eating his food away from his dish. Remember I told you how he likes to take big scoopfuls of food and then drop it in the middle of the kitchen floor? That's what he's doing right now. You can also see that I'm in the process of painting my walls in my kitchen. So you can see Emma pouring the honey out. And if you've ever used honey before, you see that you need to have lots and lots of muscles to get that honey out of the container. And to whatever it is that you're using, which is why I don't like to use honey that much, because it's a lot of work. Okay. All right, Emma, you can stop that. And then I'm going to have you pour some water in, and remember the water has orange food coloring, so it's not magic water, it's just regular water with orange food coloring. Probably should have picked a different color. I realize how close that is to the honey color. Keep going. All right, and now you can squirt some of the blue dish soap in there. So we did the cooking oil, the water, we're doing the dish soap, corn syrup, honey. So this is our last
Smells very interesting.
entry into our science lab. And I don't know if any of you can quite see what's going on. All right, you can stop there. I'm thinking maybe we should put something behind it to make it, ooh, let's try this. Wonder if that will work a little bit. That might be too dark. Try Emma's fancy computer. So, what you're probably noticing is some of the liquids that we poured in have started to separate. And typically, this will take a little bit of time, and it's a little bit harder to see on the video, but what's happening is the honey is sinking down to the bottom of the cup. Okay, so the honey is going to be this bottom layer. And then the corn syrup, which is the clear liquid, very thick, is going to be on top of the honey. And then the dish soap is making its way down. The dish soap is going to rest on top of the corn syrup. And then, interestingly enough, this dark layer right here, this is the orange water. Okay, this is resting on top of the dish soap. And then the very top layer is oil. That's the cooking oil. So that one, I think you can, there's my dishwasher. This one, I think that you can see the best. So once again, the layers, the honey is at the bottom. The corn syrup is resting on top of the honey. It's a little harder to see. And then we have the blue dish soap is resting on top of the corn syrup. Our orange water is resting on top of the blue dish soap, and then our cooking oil is resting at the top. So what that means, fifth graders, is the things that are at the very bottom, they sunk to the bottom because they're the heaviest. They are the most dense. And the things that floated up to the top are the least dense. They have the loosely packed atoms together. So the heavier things float to the bottom, and the lighter ones float up at the top. Okay, so the most dense and the least dense, the most heavily packed atoms and the least heavily packed atoms. And I have done this year after year, and it does the exact same thing every time, because in your reading, you'll read that a lot of densities don't ever change, and scientists love that. They can do experiments and they know they're going to turn out because there is never a change in the density. And that's why I know I can do this every time without practicing, and it's always going to be the same exact results. And so you can start to see the layers even more and more. And if I left this overnight, it would continue to stay like this. Nothing would mix up. I've done this in the classroom before, and I've left it in there for a couple days to show students, and the layers stay that way because of the densely packed atoms at the bottom and the less densely packed atoms at the top. So there's your layer. Once again, honey at the bottom, corn syrup on top of the honey, dish soap on top of the corn syrup, and then the orange water, and then the cooking oil. So use the video, pause the video, and complete your lab sheet, and stay tuned for part 3 of the Emma and Mrs. Spink science show tomorrow. Bye, boys and girls.